Hello, I'm OmnusI, your game master this evening here in my lair. Hello, friends. I am OmnusI, here once more in Lair of OmnusI for another RPG a Day question. With today being the 22nd of August, we have the 22nd question, which is, which RPGs are the easiest for you to run? Well, there's two different avenues you can look at that through. You can either look at games that have a simplicity of being able to run with very simple, easy to understand mechanics. Something like, say, White Wolf's game system, that statistics are based on dots, which give you 10-sided dice to roll. We're going with old school White Wolf, not the newer version, but giving you a floating target number that your game master can assign. That's so box standard easy to run once you wrap your head around it. It's just knowing and assigning to players, roll based on this attribute and this talent or skill. And that's simple. You have them roll, they tell you what they rolled, they regurgitate the results, and you figure out how many of those are successes. It's very simple, very easy, and it lends to a more of a laid-back atmosphere where people will just try things. They aren't looking at their skills or advantages. They're thinking in terms of their character and what they can do. Obviously, they'll have their tendencies. Somebody who's really good at melee will try to incorporate a melee weapon whenever they try to do something. That makes sense. It's the theme and the direction of their character. That's good. A lot of times they'll try things and not really think if their attributes are optimized for that, and that can be fun too. So that's easy to play. Then the other option comes familiarity. Now, I've been running Dungeons & Dragons for a very, very long time, and while Dungeons & Dragons has never been the easiest game in town to run, with age comes wisdom. These gray hairs aren't just for show. I can run almost any version of Dungeons & Dragons with very minimal preparation. Winging it in many cases, and I don't fear if my players go abroad in different directions. I'm sure that I can still find things to challenge them with. To me, it is like wearing a comfortable turtleneck. It's just a matter of getting it over your head and you're in, and you're back to where you're used to being and in comfortable environs. So, as far as that goes, my familiarity is in something like Dungeons & Dragons, D6 Star Wars from the West End Games rules. Let's see. Werewolf and Vampire to me are quite easy from my experience there. GURPS I would probably need to have a little refresher on. Admittedly, it's been a while. And the different Warhammer 40k games are, to me, relatively simple because I understand the mechanics behind them. The rules themselves look ridiculously impenetrable because they're, again, going into, there's so much fluff that you have to have a strainer to get into the actual sets of rules. Once you get in there, though, it's a fairly basic percentile system. You have X number of percentile, which is based off your attribute added to by your skill and familiarity, modified by circumstance, often heavily, and any other bonuses that you can scrape together. Then you just roll percentile and see how you did. The degree that you've succeeded, it determines how well you've succeeded, and if you don't meet that, then you failed. So that's fairly straightforward. On the other hand, the books are huge, and they look intimidating. So, but for me, it's relatively simple because I understand the concept. And in many cases, the players appreciate just speed rather than having to go through and find the most realistic, stacking every single bonus and everything. Oftentimes, they'll just say, make a roll. They tell me if they made it and by how much, and I'll tell them if they succeeded or not. That is really, when you get down to it, how easy a game is. When you can just say, okay, do it. And then you don't have to look up things to find out how well you did or anything. If I'm playing D&D, and I know somebody is playing a fighter, and they are taking on something that is difficult to hit for their level, and they roll a 6, I know that unless they have some stupidly ridiculous bonus, they're not going to hit. They may have a chance of about half the time of hitting, and I can wing that pretty well, having a fairly good idea of where they are and where they need to be. If I don't and I lose touch with my players, it's up to me to get that back, and then I may fall back on the numbers more. But to make things go quickly, if you rolled a 6 and you're not that exceptional, I know you probably missed in that scenario, so it's easy in that level. So, those are my answers. I have several games that I'm familiar with, and to me, that's very comfortable. I also have some that have fairly easy rules, and that makes them easy to run as well. But I'd stick with familiarity and tried and true rather than just new and simple for the sake of simplicity. That often means that you shave off a certain amount of realism with huge generalities and lots of convention thrown in with the most loose rules there are, which is fine. It opens up a lot of narrative areas, but again, I'd prefer games that I'm more comfortable with in that case. So, I'm OmnusI, Lair of OmnusI again, wishing you safe adventures.